I bet you didn't even know. I bet you don't even know how many domestic violence allegations against men are actually false. If you spend enough time online, you'll find people confidently saying 2% or 10%, 20%, 30%, or even higher. But here is the truth. We don't actually have a reliable number, a reliable national statistic that tells us how many domestic violence allegations made by women against men are knowingly fabricated. That doesn't mean false allegations never happen because they absolutely do. And when they happen, it destroys reputations, careers, child custody, gun rights, and families with no repercussions. But if we truly care about justice, we cannot replace one myth with another. Tonight, we're separating the facts from the assumptions, all right? So let's make it very, very clear. But please remember to like, follow, share, and comment below. Welcome to Money and Politics Simplified, the show where we break down the law, politics, the public policy without all the spin the world puts on it. I'm Esco Latimer. Tonight, we're discussing one of the most emotional and most often misunderstood topics in America's legal system: false domestic violence allegations. This conversation is not about minimizing violence against women, so let's be clear about that. It is not about denying that abuse that happens. It's about asking whether our justice system can protect genuine victims while also protecting innocent people from false allegations used as weapons. And as always, we're going to simplify it. Let's begin with a fact that often gets overlooked. Men can be victims too of domestic violence. We just don't report it as often as women do. According to the CDC's most recent national survey, approximately 17% of American men, or about 20.7 million men, have experienced intimate partner physical violence, contact sexual violence, or stalking during a lifetime. The CDC also estimates that about 13.7 men have experienced physical violence by an intimate partner. Approximately 22.3% have experienced psychological aggression. I would say probably more than that in the psych world. Recognizing male victims doesn't diminish female victims. Every victim deserves to be heard. Now, let's talk about something equally important. How many domestic violence allegations are intentionally false? The honest answer is we don't know. No national database tracks it knowingly. They don't track the fabricated domestic violence allegations, but it needs to start and come with some punishment as it's sought out to inflict. That's important because people often confuse very different legal outcomes. A case that is dismissed, not prosecuted, or unsubstantiated, or unsupported by enough evidence is not automatically a false allegation. Likewise, a knowingly false allegation requires evidence that someone intentionally made a claim they knew was untrue. Those are very different things and hard to prove, no more than slander or defamation. You may have heard people say something like 26% of women lie about domestic violence. That claim comes from a DOJ funded custody study, but it often misrepresented the study. It proved that 26% of women knowingly fabricated allegations was not intentionally all true. Instead, researchers asked custody evaluators and other professionals what percentage of allegations they believe were false. That's a measure of professional perception. It is not, however, a verified national database for reporting the rate. Opinion surveys, even from professionals, are not the same as independently proving what actually happened in those cases. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think they ever can happen. It's hard to prove that. So let's look at North Carolina, where I live. A domestic protection order called a DVPO is a civil proceeding. Red flag right there. Not a criminal conviction. This is a huge distinction for several reasons that matters because the burden of proof is lower. I'll say the gutter. Since women initiate these claims more often, it makes a male's job a lot harder to prove his innocence. If we were in criminal, he would often get a lawyer if he couldn't afford one. Meanwhile, the state represents the woman, or DSS, at no cost to her. So yes, she gets to make the claim and do it for free and cost you an attorney if you can afford one. All she has to say is, yes, he did it, or I'm so scared. The judge decides whether it's more than likely true, of the domestic violence issue happened, that's called preponderance of evidence. Standard, normal things that people call BS. It's a much lower line of proof and it doesn't need reasonable doubt. Civil protective orders exist to help courts act quickly when someone may be in danger, but they can also affect firearm rights. It can affect employment, housing for someone, their reputation as a business owner, child custody. That's why due process is so important. This issue became personal for me, okay? In my own case, allegations involving events that were said to have occurred many, many years ago earlier were presented in court. Those allegations were strongly disputed. It was over a child custody battle when this was happening. One allegation involved that I was described as financially abusing her. I'm not saying my experience proves any national statistic. It doesn't. What it did teach me is how life-changing a civil proceeding can become when two people completely disagree about what happened. That's exactly why evidence and due process matters. A fair justice system shouldn't force us to choose between victims and the falsely accused. We can protect both, and we should. That means specific factual allegations instead of vague accusations are important. Meaningful opportunities for both sides to present their evidence, clear written findings explaining the court's decision, fair access to the witnesses or fair access to the messages, photographs, medical records, and financial documents. It also means that knowingly fabricated evidence should carry severe consequences. But those consequences should be based on proof that someone intentionally lied, not simply because they lost their case. We should also remember male victims deserve shelters, just like anyone else, legal resources, counseling, and public awareness as well. We are not second-class citizens here. Justice should never begin with assumptions, not the assumptions that every allegation is false, and not the assumption that every allegation is automatically true. The justice system works best when investigators gather evidence. We can agree on that, right? I think we can. Judges weigh facts, which is what they should be doing, not mere statements. And the courts make decisions based on proof. Protecting victims and protecting due process are not competing values. A healthy justice system requires both. Okay, so everyone, come closer. Let's simplify this. Domestic violence is real. Women are victims. Men are victims. Knowingly false allegations also occur. But there is no credible national statistic proving that a specific percentage of women fabricate domestic violence allegations against men. But we are adults here, and we know it happens largely against men as a weapon during custody battles. Justice requires us to investigate thoroughly, evaluate evidence fairly, real evidence, protect genuine victims, and hold people accountable if there is proof that they intentionally made false claims. Truth, not assumptions, should always guide the outcome. Personally, I believe our justice system should never force someone to choose between supporting victims and defending due process. We can and we must do both. Every allegation deserves to be taken seriously, no matter male or female. Let me be clear on that. Every accused person deserves a meaningful opportunity to defend themselves that is fair and impartial. And every court decision should be guided in credible evidence, not stereotypes about gender, whether it's a man or a woman. I also believe we need to do a better job at recognizing male victims because abuse does not discriminate. Neither should compassion. At the same time, intentionally false allegations can inflict enormous harm on the other person. When there is clear evidence that someone knowingly fabricated claims, there should be legal consequences that are enforced. Justice isn't about believing everyone. Justice is about knowing evidence and seeing evidence and following evidence to where it leads. What do you think? Do domestic violence protective orders, the proceedings provide enough due process for both parties or just women? Should states impose stronger penalties when someone is proven to have intentionally made false accusations or allegations? And how can we better support all victims while ensuring that accusations alone do not become automatic proof? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Escolado. As a father that has gone through this, trying to get custody of his daughter, this episode personally touched me. My heart hurts for all the good men out there that have given their time, life, money to fight these allegations, which most of the time happen when there's a custody battle. Just know you're not alone and you can rebuild. Please remember to like, follow, share, and comment below. This is Money in Politics Simplified. Stay informed, stay engaged, because when you understand the money on how the court system wants you to spend funds on attorneys, fees, even bonds to get out of jail, fathers, you have friends out here who support you. The good men. And as always, when you understand that, you understand the politics. Good night.
Talking money, talking power. Follow the paper and you find a throne. Deals in the back while the cameras roll. Who's funding fear? Who's buying hope? Who's pulling strings every time we vote?